The Vanishing Villagers. The wind howled a mournful song through the skeletal branches guarding the entrance to Hollow Creek. Detective Miller, a man carved from granite with eyes like storm clouds, stepped into the deserted town square. Dust devils danced across the cracked pavement, swirling whispers of a forgotten past. Hollow Creek was a ghost town in the making. A year ago, the population had boasted a vibrant 200 souls. Now, boarded-up windows stared blankly from ramshackle houses and a heavy curtain of silence hung thick in the air. Miller was there to investigate the string of disappearance, a chilling mystery that had drawn statewide attention. His first stop was the abandoned general store. The bell above the door creaked a rusty welcome as he pushed it open. Cobwebs draped the shelves like hair-strung curtains and dust swirled in the shafts of sunlight piercing the grimy windows. A single photograph lay on the counter. Yellowed and dog-eared, it depicted a group of smiling townsfolk gathered around a bonfire. Miller recognized the mayor, a stout man with a perpetual twinkle in his eye and a young woman with fiery red hair. A pang of unease twisted in his gut. Where were these people now? Suddenly, a guttural croak startled him. A crow perched on the counter, its beady eyes gleaming with an unsettling intelligence. It tilted its head, mimicking Miller's frown with an eerie gesture. Then, with a final unnerving caw, it flapped its wings and vanished into the gloom. The encounter, though seemingly insignificant, sent shivers down his spine. Following a trail of dead ends and unanswered questions, Miller spent the next few days combing through the town. Every house he entered held the same unsettling story: abandoned meals on dining tables, half-written letters on desks, toys scattered on floors. It was as if the inhabitants had vanished into thin air, leaving their lives suspended in a terrifying moment. Frustration gnawed at Miller. The lack of clues, the oppressive silence, it was all driving him mad. One evening as he sat hunched over a dusty map in his temporary lodging, a hastily vacated cabin on the outskirts of town, a flicker of movement outside caught his eye. A cloaked figure darted across the clearing behind his cabin, disappearing into the dense woods. With a surge of adrenaline, Miller grabbed his flashlight and sprinted into the night. The air grew thick and oppressive as he delved deeper into the woods. Thorns clawed at his clothes, and twisted shadows danced. Just as he thought he'd reached a dead end, a faint flickering light pierced the darkness. Following it, he stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood a crude, circular altar, its edges adorned with cryptic symbols. Around it, figures clad in dark robes chanted in an unknown tongue, their voices rising in a chilling crescendo. A wave of nausea washed over Miller as he recognized the figures from the photograph, the townsfolk. But something was terribly wrong. Their eyes were glazed over, vacant, devoid of recognition. In the center of the altar lay a young woman with fiery red hair, her face contorted in silent scream. It was the woman from the photograph. Terror tightened its icy grip on Miller's heart. He was witnessing a ritual, a sacrifice. But to what? Suddenly, a spotlight of moonlight pierced the clearing, illuminating Miller. The chanting stopped. All eyes turned towards him. A gasp escaped his lips as he saw the leader of the cult, a man with a withered face and eyes that burned like embers. It was the mayor. But it wasn't. This face held an unsettling familiarity, a face he couldn't quite place. "Detective Miller," the leader rasped, his voice a chilling echo. "Finally, you return. We've been expecting you." Confusion clouded Miller's mind. What is this? How do they know me? Then, a horrifying realization slammed into him. He recognized that face. It was his own, reflected back at him from a cracked mirror shard embedded in the altar. His mind raced as buried memories raged to the surface. He too was a member of the cult. He had participated in these rituals before. Amnesia from an accident during an arrest created a veil over the truth. A scream tore from his throat, a primal cry of terror and betrayal. But it was too late. The chanting resumed, louder, more insistent this time. As they dragged him towards the altar, Miller's mind reeled with the horrific truth. He wasn't there to investigate the disappearances. He was the reason for them. The final image burned into his mind, the terrified face of the woman strapped to the altar, a face he had seen countless times before. His wife.